Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Robbins from Mindshaper SLP with another tip of the day, Tuesday. Yay, my favorite day of the week. All right, so what are we going to be learning about today? I thought today we would talk about transitions. So we all know that transitions can be really, really hard for our young ones, and not just for our young ones. I myself have a difficult time with transitions from time to time. You can even ask my boyfriend. But especially for our children that don't really have a sense of time, don't have control over their schedules, don't do well when things change, transitions can be a nightmare and they can be really, really challenging. So there's a lot of strategies I could teach you around this concept, but I'm going to focus today on just one, and that is headlining. And so what headlining is just announcing to the child that a transition is coming ahead of time. That's really as simple as it is. So let me give you an example of what that looks like in real time or in a real life situation. So let's say that your child is playing with some toys. You can say, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to clean up our toys because it's going to be time to eat dinner. So you're telling him how long it'll be before it's time to clean up, what they need to do at the end of that time, and then what's coming next. So that's a big part of helping your child better able cope with transitions, is letting them know what is coming next and also giving them time and to process it. So what are some strategies that you can do within the headlining strategy? If you say 5 minutes, it needs to be 5 minutes. We really, really want to be true to our word with time, because this has two functions. One, it helps children to truly understand what 5 minutes feels like, or what 1 minute feels like, or what 3 minutes feels like. So it helps them develop a better sense of a span of time, A. B, it helps with the trust relationship, so that your child knows when you say 5 minutes, you mean 5 minutes, and you don't mean 10 minutes, and you don't mean 30 seconds. Then when you say 5 minutes, it actually means 5 minutes, and that they can depend on you to be consistent with what you're saying to them, which is very, very important when it comes to behaviors, because when a child knows that you say what you mean and mean what you say, then they're most likely going to comply with your directives. So you want to be accurate with your time. Another thing you can do is you can set a timer. We all have smartphones now. iPhone is great. And I think with the new iOS, it even shows like a visual countdown if you set the timer to 5 minutes. So you could set the phone out. You could just use a kitchen timer. You could get a sand timer that's equal a certain amount of time and use that. It doesn't really matter. So it's just something for them to refer to for that said period of time that you have given them. So if, say, you're using like one of those little sand timers in a game, so that's probably about a minute or so, you say, okay, when the timer runs out of sand, it's time to clean up. And then they can look and be like, oh, I've got a little bit of sand left. I still have a little bit of time. So using timers is great. I use timers all the time in my therapy with my kids. They really are very, very effective. And another thing you can do is you can say, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to clean up. And then you can remind them, okay, 3 more minutes, and then we're going to clean up. 2 more minutes, 1 more minute. And then either there will be a ding when the timer goes off, or when it's getting to the end of that 5 minute window, you can say, okay, I'm going to count to 10, and then we're going to clean up. And I like to count really, really slowly so that the kids know that it's not like a race to the finish line. It's just going to get to 10 so fast. And I kind of judge the pace of my counting with how long they need. Like, if I see that the child is starting to clean up, moving slowly, or just wants to finish this one thing, but I can tell that they're going to comply with what I'm saying, I might count a little bit slower, leave a little more space between my numbers. So instead of being like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might go 1, 2, 3, 4. And so then that counting to 10 really is a good amount of time for the child to be prepared to do what they have to do to make that transition happen. And then another thing that we do that I learned when I worked at the Center for Spectrum Services, such a great school, shout out. We had a song that we used for every transition. And what's great about using a transition song is it keeps something consistent and the same with every transition. So the reason that transitions are often hard for the kids is because they can't cope with change very well. But when you add an element of something they can grasp onto that will be the same every single time, whether it's using a visual schedule and they check the schedule and they check into their next thing, or a transition song, then that can be their grounding place that can help them cope with the transition that much easier. So we used to sing a song, the Finnish song. So it would be playtime is finished, finished, finished. Playtime is finished. It's time to, and we would usually say work at school, but it's time to eat dinner. It's time to clean up the toys. It's time to insert whatever you want here. And when the kids hear this song, they just know that this is the time that we're going to wrap up what we're doing and we're moving on to something else. So there you go. That's your tip of the day Tuesday to help with transitions. So I'm just going to recap real quick. We have headlining, which includes giving the child a fair warning when change is coming. Give them a set amount of time. Be true to your word about the amount of time. If you say 5 minutes, give them 5 minutes. Use a timer. Count to 10. And then use some sort of chant or song or some sort of ritual or routine that can keep some part of the transition the same every single time. And with over time and consistency of using this strategy, hopefully the transitions in your house will be a little bit easier too. Thank you so much. Please comment below. Let me know your favorite tips and tricks for transitions. With any questions, share this video, like me on social media, and thank you so much for joining me for another Tip of the Day Tuesday.